Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean. Hi, I am Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean, and this is our podcast about love, marriage, and relationships.
Please check us out online at couplesynergy.com or on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Couple Synergy. And please subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, or send us any suggestions on topics you'd like to hear more about. Keep in mind, if you are interested in our coaching program, you can always send us an email at contact@couplesynergy.com for a free evaluation. And now on to Couple Synergy, an in-depth look at love, marriage, and relationships, where we bring you our experience helping thousands of couples transform their relationships for over 25 years.
Everyone says you should work on your relationship, but nobody teaches us how. So we've created this podcast to teach people what they can do to create the relationship they've always dreamed of
with the partner they fell in love with. On today's episode, we are talking about something that couples say all the time when they meet with us. Help, I am married and I'm miserable. And where did the fun go in the relationship?
And miserable for quite a while.
And it's typically many, many years. Right? A lot of couples, once they come to meet with us, they've been kind of locked in this really miserable pattern in the relationship for 10 plus years or so.
And usually it's the women who are aware of it first and for much longer than the guy is.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's typically it's the women who initiate help, right? They're the ones that are really unhappy for a lot longer of time. They don't have any fun with their partner anymore. They don't even like their partner. You know, the friendship has really kind of diminished and disintegrated over time. And, they're usually the ones that go to their partner say, I can't stand it anymore.
I think also they love the idea of the potential. They love the idea of the concept of being with that person. You know, it's still their person. They still love that person, even if they don't like them. And even if they're not so happy, and with happiness, obviously we're not designed to be happy. We're designed to grow. So it's fleeting and it's meant to be fleeting. And that's how come it takes so long for you to go, is this really like a thing we're going through? Or is it really something we need to work on?
Well, a lot of couples, they get bogged down in the weeds, with all the problems that are happening in their relationship, all the obligations and, kids and responsibilities that they have to attend to, that they stop nurturing their friendship. And as if you stop nurturing something, it's going to fade away. And that's typically where they suffer the first, at first is in their friendship.
Yeah, that's kind of a theme these days, although not all couples are doing it. There's a couple, we all have the same amount of time, right? So if you have kids and you have jobs and you're busy, you still have the same amount of time as couples who are rocking it and have the same amount of time and the same pressures and responsibilities. And we see couples shift that all the time. When they first come to us, they're like, we don't have any time for each other. We are so busy. And by the time we get the kids down, we're exhausted and we're going to bed. And that's such a big mistake, because what we're ignoring is the most important thing we have, the most important thing for our health and our emotional wellness and quality of life. Remember that show we just watched, Live to be 100?
Live to be 100 on Netflix. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Secrets of the Blue Zone.
So one of the secrets that they found was common amongst all of the centenarians was laughter and having fun. And even in Sardinia, dancing, right? Singing and dancing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I think, used to be a part of the culture before we had radio and before we had TV. People would get together on Friday nights and you'd have a few musicians and you'd have the barn dance. And, we just went to Ireland and we went to those old pubs that were like that. And they're still like that. There's still musicians almost every night, and all the town people come together and they know each other and they just sing along and have a great time. And that's so good for us.
Well, you remember the one pub we went to, Michael Finucane's
Yeah.
in Ballylongford. I think that was the town.
Yeah.
Right? Does that sound right?
No,
So, it wasn't?
I think Ballylongford was where John McKean's was. John Keane.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look at our video to find out and remember, because my memory has lost me. So, but we were in that pub and there was maybe 10 people there, and they found out that we were tourists. I don't think it really took much for them to figure out we were
In
tourists.
the town of 251
Right.
people or however many were
But
there.
that, that old gentleman, he started sing us a song.
Yeah.
And that was really cool, right? He was sitting there serenading us, and a tune from Ireland.
Yeah. The gal from
Galway Bay.
Galway Bay.
Galway Bay, yeah.
Yeah, you can watch our video on our Irish trip. And it was so, when we walked in, and this is not common in those pubs, they did have a TV on and they were watching sports. But most of those pubs don't have any TVs. And as soon as we walked in, they turned the volume off.
Yeah.
And they all paid attention to us and each other. And he started singing, and they all, were part of it. Like, it looked like they'd done that a million times.
Well, I mean, that combines two things that we're talking about,
Mhm.
is having fun together, laughter, and singing, and one of the things that is also important is that community, is doing it together as a group, right? But we had a lot of fun,
Yeah.
on that trip, and it wasn't something that was scripted. We made it up ourselves, and we tend to do that. We tend to like to create things together and experience new things together. And that nurtures not only our marriage, but it nurtures our friendship together, right? Something that we have done our entire marriage and relationship is that we experience new things, and we go and we have fun and, doing new things.
It's all made up.
Yeah, of course it's all made up.
And, we recently interviewed Dan Millman. That episode hasn't aired yet, but he's the author of Peaceful Warrior. And he was talking about, we really don't have control over what we think. Like, we're not thinking, what should I think about right now? It just, those thoughts just sort of float through, and those thoughts create feelings. And then those feelings create more thoughts, and we can get stuck in these ruts. But what we have control over is our body behavior, what we do.
Right. And, there are going to be times that you don't like your partner.
What?
Not me. I'm talking about all the people out there, right? But there are going to be times that you don't like your partner. You don't feel connected as friends. Maybe you feel more like business partners because you're working at home and you're taking care of bills and the kids and all that stuff. But, if you act on it, even though you might not think it, you might not feel it, but if you consistently act on it, that is what it truly is going to make the difference.
That's the mastery.
That is the mastering of it.
Yeah.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of this analogy of, if your partner's your mirror,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're pretty in normal, a couple feet away from a mirror, you can see pretty clearly. But when you get that distance in your relationship, there's so much other stuff in the picture now, and that you're tiny in the mirror and other stuff is big. And everything that we feel as human beings, we have this natural tendency to blame someone, or to, try to figure something out, but it's usually someone else, right?
Of course.
I was just listening to
It's not
someone
going to be me.
to someone speak, and she said, "Who took my notes?" And she brought her notes up. Nobody was up there with her, but
Right.
when she couldn't find them, like, who did that? Who did that? Like, we don't see ourselves. And that reflection is where we start to project our unhappiness onto our partner. And then it makes it harder for us to find the energy to have fun. And a lot of times, once you get stuck in a rut, it's very difficult to get moving again. And it really is just that movement.
Dan, when we were talking with Dan Millman,
Mhm.
one of the things that he's talked about in like his books and speaking engagements and everything was his motorcycle accident, right? And he talked about it when
Yeah.
in our interview,
Mhm.
how he had shattered his leg in multiple pieces.
Yeah.
I didn't say this on the interview, but it made me think about when we first learned how to ride a motorcycle, is that the instructor said that where you look is where you're going to go.
Yeah.
Right. And oh, here comes Jethro.
Now you're getting some love.
So, he'd say where you look is where you go. And that just makes me think about in your relationship when your actions are geared towards, animosity or resentment or conflict, when you are focused on the, getting bogged down in the weeds in your relationship, then that's where you're going to go. You're going to create more and more of that,
Yeah.
Versus balancing the tough times, the difficult times with having fun with your partner, doing new things, experiencing, new environments, right? And when you balance out those difficult times, those serious times, which are important, you have to be able to have, heart to heart, deep conversations with your partner so you can create this common vision and keep moving towards in that direction. But if you're not balancing it out with having fun, right? If you're not balancing out your friendship and investing in that, then where you look is where you're going to go.
Yeah, I think about some of the really big things that we've done in our relationship. Again, we made it up. We decided to hike 1,000 miles in 2016, and it turned into this awesome adventure in the John Muir Trail in California for a couple 100 miles. And even the Irish trip or whatever, but even the podcast, like it's just, you just decide to do something. Yesterday, we decided to move a couple cords of
wood,
which is a lot of wood,
cords of firewood,
and it had been sitting out there.
Fun.
No, but it'd been sitting out there a long time. And now that it's done, it just feels really good, And the other thing is, once you do fun things, now you both have this common memory, and that can bring you back together too. I think about those couples you like to watch on, I don't know where you watch them, but like the one where they try to do those gymnastic things, like the yoga things.
Oh, they do those like couple challenges or something like that.
Or the Batman guy that's always teasing his wife or something.
Dad.
In our very first podcast episode, we talked about you have to surprise. Something has to be surprising and exciting in order for you to like jump out of that rut that you're stuck in. And really, it really is a matter of choosing to do something and just going for it. And it does take some energy.
It absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
With all the travel that we do, there are times when, we have to pack and we have to get ready to go and everything. And it's like, it's so laborious, right? It's like, I just don't want to. I don't want to get up. I don't want to figure out what I'm going to have to wear.
Well, even before that, where are we going to stay and flights?
Yeah. And then going through the hassle of travel in of itself,
that first day is not usually too fun.
Well, I mean, just this recent flight, remember, we barely made it to the gate, in the transfer.
Yeah.
So, it does take that effort.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a big effort. We're talking about traveling and stuff like that, but it takes effort just to go and try a new activity together.
Yeah. I read something on travel. It was some poem, on social media, and it was like, if you don't travel, you believe everything that's on TV, and you believe that whatever your life experience is all that there is. And you don't get to get out there and meet new people and see things from different perspectives. And we really get really, really, really stuck. And so the same thing is true. We hear a lot of couples that say, well, we do things with our kids.
Yeah.
We have family time.
Right.
And we'll take the kids on adventures and on vacations and out for dinners, but we don't do that for us.
Well, which is important for family time.
Sure.
But it's not couple time. That's not nurturing your friendship together. It's not nurturing your intimacy together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And it's about that constant, consistent investment. I had a client just recently text me because it was his wife's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
It was like one of the, I don't know, the big 0 or 5s. Right. And he was like, what should I do? right? He just had no
No
idea,
clue. Yeah.
no clue. Should I go to a restaurant, or do you have ideas about what to do? Because, I mean, they had been together for
18 years.
times two
Yeah.
or something, you know,
Yeah.
they've been together a long time.
Mhm.
And over that long period of time, you can become very complacent.
Yep.
And as you said, very stuck. And when you get stuck, it's really hard to get out of it because, you know, your brain, neurons are not used to that spark, right?
Yeah.
They're used to a pattern of wiring and firing together, and it stays that way.
Yep.
And once it stays that way, you have to really push yourself really hard to break out of it and to have new ideas, right? To have a new perspective on things. I mean, I don't know if you remember, we used to in the early days when working with clients, we would have them step on a chair. Right?
Yeah.
I know I had that, right? Step up on top of a chair and then have them describe the room from up there.
Different perspective.
Right? And
Change
you
your
have
perspective.
Change your perspective. You have a different perspective. You can see different things then. And if you just do the same thing over and over again, and especially if you're focused on just the mundane, then you're going to get stuck in thinking the mundane and feeling the mundane. And who are you going to attribute that feeling of mundaneness to?
Yep.
You're going to attribute it to your partner.
Yeah. And you'll hear people talk like that, like, well, they don't want to do it, so I can't do it, or they don't let me, or whatever those things are, when really it's kind of a way of feeling safe in the relationship, where we look at, if we do anything, do you think we fight more on vacation or at home?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think probably more at home.
So when we are on vacation and we get into something, we can't behave the way we behave at home. Because
right.
You can't just leave. You're kind of
you have to
stuck travel wise. You're stuck.
Well, you're also in a new
vicinity.
environment,
Yep.
so you feel kind of,
off
kilter.
So one thing I notice is, like, we'll participate in doing something because we're there and we plan to do it, but maybe I'm like, like sticking my tongue out at you or letting you know in some way that I don't really like you right now, even though I love you, but I don't really like you right now. And I think that is a really normal part of life. And I remember saying this to my aunt and uncle. I'm like, isn't it interesting how much you can not like someone you love?
That's a good way to put it.
And that not liking someone is really something in you that you're trying to figure out or work through, and you see it in them and you don't like it and you don't know what to do with it. And so you go into that protection mode, and you don't really see it if you're stuck in the rut. If you're stuck in the rut, you feel it like a low murmur.
It actually turns into like hate and hardened anger.
Yep.
And the resentment if it goes on for long enough. And now it's like, I mean, as you said, it's natural to dislike your partner from time to time. This is going to happen, right? But if it continues to happen time and time again, and you're not balancing it out.
You don't resolve it.
We don't resolve it, and you're not balancing out with trying to like and trying to be a friend to your partner, then it'll turn into that hardened anger and resentment.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed that I do in the last couple of years is I don't really come to you with stuff very quickly. And I'll wait and really try to understand in myself, like, why does this bother me, or what's really going on? And sometimes I don't ever come to you with it. It sort of resolves itself, or, I figure some things out. And, I think that really does take a lot of inner work and knowing yourself and that kind of stuff. And a lot of this stuff we're talking about reminds me of the book, The Love Languages. People love that book. They love the love languages, and I think they love it for kind of backwards. Like they want to tell their partner, what's my love language? And so you do that for me.
Right.
But that's not the point. And, the love languages are really the beginning stages of a repairing of a relationship. It isn't the end all be all. It's just, let's make some deposits into this relationship. So, right, quality time or gift giving or words of affirmation. Those are things that you're choosing to give to the relationship and to your partner, even if you don't feel good.
It's not about what I can get.
No, it's not
It's about
what we
what
can
I
get.
can give. Right.
Yeah, if you think about a baby is 100% what can I get? And they have zero emotional regulation. And as we mature, and you think about your relationship of how often you act like a baby or your partner acts like a parent or vice versa, right? And so the goal of a relationship is learning to have that emotional regulation so that you can have difficult conversations and resolve things and be able to act beyond what you're feeling in any given moment. And we always have 100% control over what we choose to give and zero control over
What we're going to get.
what we're going to get.
Right.
That's why it's vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah. And too often what happens is couples get stuck and locked to a transactional relationship
Mhm.
where they're really focused on what can I get? Right. So
Or what am I
gave
not
you-
getting?
I gave you this and I should be getting something back in return. Right. And so when you get into that transactional type of, giving and
Pattern.
receiving and
Mhm.
pattern, it is really, really hard to get out of that. And now it breeds competition in the
Right.
relationship.
And, a lot of times if the relationship seems out of balance, like if one person is giving more than the other person, that person has to shift inside themselves. Why are they doing that? And when you give without any expectations, that makes you healthier. That makes you feel better. It also might make you end your relationship if you really notice that gap. But giving and then being in resentment or keeping score, that makes you sick. And that'll actually keep your relationship going. There's some pretty
Really
miserable relationships that are really stuck for a long, long time.
Talk about married and miserable. Yeah. And just stuck in this really toxic pattern. But they get to a point that they're addicted to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's
their familiar feelings.
Right. And it does raise your adrenaline and makes you feel all of those chemicals, right? And all on edge. So it can be mistaken for passion. It could be mistaken for love, but it absolutely is not.
No.
It's so toxic, and it does become an addiction for people.
It's an interesting thing to think about your life in terms of who you are and where you've come from and what's happened to you. And so often we think about something that happened to us when we were 15 years old, and it becomes our identity instead of our a colorful spice in our life. It becomes the main ingredient, right? And right now, today, regardless of what's ever happened in your relationship or to you, you could just choose not to do it anymore and do something different.
Choose to change.
You can choose to change, and you
Absolutely.
can make peace with that past. And that is the point of life. We are supposed to go through processes of forgiveness and forgive each other for our humanness and our shortcomings and our accidental or on purpose hurting each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how we grow in relationships. When we hang on to that old stuff, and you could say to your partner right now, hey, I know we haven't been doing much lately, but let's set some goals. Let's plan a trip, or let's plan to learn something new, whatever it is, and act like it's your first date. Behave, be interested, and don't worry about, am I getting my way or getting their way or whatever. Do something you've never done. You won't even know if it's your way or their way.
Yeah, make up a character.
Yeah. Yep.
Make up a character and act like a character,
Mhm.
right? No, you can't stop your body from healing.
Right.
Right. It is just designed to do that. And if you break your leg and you don't set it in the right way, it's going to start to heal in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to start growing in the wrong way. And so very much in a relationship, you have to think from that same perspective, is that, do something different. It doesn't have to be the way things were in the past. It can be something different, but do something different in the right way. Right. And now you're growing together versus growing apart.
Yep. And it's so much more fun.
It's much more fun. Absolutely. Right. your best friend should be your spouse. Should be.
Ideally.
Right. And there are a lot of couples we've come across that needed our help, that they had better friends or closer friends than
That they went to and not
that
their
they went
partner.
to, than their
Yeah.
partner.
Mhm.
And it was really sad,
Yeah.
to talk with them, because
And very painful for the partner.
for
That
sure.
rejection. And you didn't even know you were doing it, because you're
Yeah.
just so used to going to this friend longer than you maybe have been in the marriage. But it is very damaging to your relationship. All right. I'm putting you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
3 super fun things we've done.
Well, I think I always say skydiving, so I'm just going to take that out of the list.
Okay.
Okay. Because that I can't constitute as that being really fun. It was super scary, but hang gliding.
Yep.
I think the dive in Cozumel that we dove, that probably on par with the diving with sharks in Bora Bora. That was pretty cool.
I think about things that we're just laughing so hard, like eating weird things. That's always hilarious for me. What is it? The last thing we just ate that was weird?
Crickets.
Crickets.
We so there's
It was served to us at
It
a
was.
restaurant.
It
We didn't
was.
go out to
didn't
the
just
yard.
eat crickets from the yard. No, there was a restaurant in Mexico, and they had bone marrow, which roasted bone marrow is delicious. But then they put roasted crickets on top of it,
The garnish.
and we ate them. I don't know. I didn't really
wasn't
taste much of
terrible.
it.
No,
Just
it's
little,
all right.
like crunchy chips.
But it's
or
just funny,
something.
like eating weird things. I think we did an episode on humor once, and
We did.
we'll go to the kitchen and we'll put 3 items on a spoon, and then your partner closes their eyes and you stick it in their mouth.
And it's called this. We made that
Yeah,
up, right?
the
That
spoon
game we
game.
called the spoon game. And then you could be mean,
Yes.
or you could be nice.
Yep.
Right. But then your partner has to
They get
close
to
their eyes,
reciprocate.
they put it in their mouth, and then they have to guess what those 3 items are, right?
That is a very fun thing to do. So, sometimes just those really simple things are just, what I love doing? I love just looking at shooting stars.
Yeah.
We happen to have some really nice dark skies here. And, we build that into our life. We almost every day go out and watch the sky for a little bit before we go to bed at night.
For sure.
And, those little rituals you can do that keep you connected. Those little touch points are really important, and they should be fun, and they should be things you love.
Right now, we're raising chickens together.
Yeah. Raise the rooster.
Although I didn't tell you this morning when I opened
Yeah.
the door, they all came out to go get food. And one of them, Oreo, I think, she made a sound like a rooster.
No.
Yeah. And I was like, what was that? I don't know. We're going to have to watch. I don't know what age you're supposed to tell or what. but
I don't know. We don't know anything about chickens. We had them in our house for about 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And we put them outside, and they're so cute.
It's just a lot of fun.
And we have a dwarf chicken.
Right. It's just something that we're doing together, that it's new, and it's just a fun activity. And we have to go for pickleball lessons tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, pickleball.
I've
Yep.
never done that before.
Nope.
No.
We'll see.
Yep.
There's a lot of good instructional things on YouTube if you want to learn something new. That's how we didn't really cook before we moved out here. Now we do a lot of cooking. And that's another thing we figured out we really love, especially when it comes out good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we've mastered a lot of great dishes.
Yeah.
So we want to thank you for joining us today. We've been live this whole time here. And we want to thank you for joining us. Our passion is in helping couples and people have happy and healthy relationships. And this podcast gives us a fun way of bringing our knowledge and expertise to you, our listeners. Look out for our episode that's going to be coming out probably in a couple of weeks here. And that is our interview with Dan Millman. So he's world-renowned spiritual teacher, Dan Millman, who wrote the book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and the Life You Were Born to Live. He's got like 16 more books than those 2 I just mentioned there. But it was a great discussion, great interview with him, and look out for that episode that's going to be coming out. For all of you listening, please let us know how you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions, please email us at contact@couplesynergy.com. For more information about Couple Synergy and our programs such as Relationship 101, the home study course, the next Couples Relationship Enhancement Weekend, and our premier couples coaching program. That's the coaching program that Gene and I have created to work with couples over a 90-day period. It's called Couple to Couple. Look us up online at couplesynergy.com.
And if you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please download it and share it. And thank you for listening.
Until next time, synergize your life and synergize your love.
You have been listening to Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Couple Synergy was recorded, edited, and produced by Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Voiceover and music entitled Breathe and Let Go was recorded and composed by Gina Gonzalez.